said, this is the stuff of my legacy. This is what I'm going to tell my daughter about when she's older. Is show her pictures of New Zealand and being a main event down here. Why Daddy had to be gone for 2 months at a time, and I got to be greeted by that traditional ceremony, and about supposed to be kind of respecting my ancestors and their ancestors, and I had the ashes of my dad around my neck the whole time, which I'll walk out to on fight night with. So it just kind of had this empowering feeling the whole time, which I'm sure is pretty much the intention of that, is to have this spiritual moment with these people, and to be able to embrace them in the traditional way, and greet them. It was once in a lifetime opportunity, but maybe not with my career. I could end up back here doing it again.
There's really no respite for you when you're fighting at this level. Hey, you just came through a war with Edson Barbosa, and now it's kind of a given that this is not going to be easy for either of you, right? This is probably going to be, everyone's saying, fight of the night. Is that what you love about the sport, especially at this level, the level of competition?
Yeah, when you get in the top 15 in the lightweight division in the UFC, I mean, really any top 15 in the UFC, but particularly ours, it's just stacked. I mean, guys that aren't even ranked are absolute killers in this division. So at this point, I'd rather be fighting these guys and moving up towards the title shot than fight another guy who's just as dangerous and isn't ranked. So taking on a guy like Dan Hooker, who's on a win streak and just absolutely killing it, that's what I want. That's what's going to really catapult one of us towards the top three, and that's where we're sitting in our careers. Is we need that performance or that moment, and we need the spotlight to kind of really push us towards that. Right, getting this main event for one of us is going to be the catalyst to kind of give us that opportunity to call out the bigger names.
Where do you feel you have the advantage over him? Were you impressed with his past couple of performances that led him here to this main event?
Yeah, I am. I was very impressed with all of his fights. Even Edson, I can appreciate how tough he showed himself in that fight. But I just feel like I'm cut from a crazy different cloth than a lot of people, and you don't realize it when you talk to me. You don't know it when you sit down with me. But when I get in there, just something pushes me through stuff that other people don't seem to be able to handle. And I showed that in my last fight. I showed it in my first fight with Edson. I fought with a snapped forearm, you know what I mean, and almost pulled off a split decision. So these gritty, bloody battles are what I come to expect. My team knows it. I pack my bag before I leave so that I don't have to do it while I'm injured. I won't let anybody post about an after party before I go to fight night, because I don't know if there's going to be an after party. I don't assume that I'm going to be going out. I don't tell anybody what we're doing. I assume that I'm going to be in the hospital, and that's win or lose.
Doing some of my research for this interview, I went down a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole and discovered Fight Milk, which was quite exciting for me. It was interesting that you were talking about, you could be acting, you could just focus on commentary. You don't have to be here. Are you gonna look at acting, do you think, more, and do you think more about what you're gonna do afterwards?
Of course, right? I'm 35. I've been in the UFC for over 5 years. This will be my 14th fight or 15th fight with the UFC. So it's been a long road. I've taken a lot of injuries. I've taken some damage. I still feel physically fantastic. It's not really the issue, but I've got other opportunities if I want them to be there for myself. So yeah, of course I do. I definitely want to get back into acting, just because I love it, not because fighting's beating me up, I want to move on. But that's another passion that I've always had, is the performing arts. So I definitely want to get back into that. I'd like to get back on stage, even though there's no money whatsoever involved in it. I definitely want to get more into film and television and do more broadcasting. And I want to do other things with the UFC and other things with Fight Pass and ESPN. Like, I've got shows that I want to work on. Like, I really want to do a show about touring these cities, kind of like a Food Network type show, where I go around and eat different stuff and do food challenges and bring on special guest fighters, and maybe have another host with me. So there's a lot of things that I'd like to do after my fighting career. But this is my bread and butter, and this is what's going to set up those opportunities for me. The higher I can get on the food chain, as a fighter or become champion, then those things are just going to be given to me.
Is it strange for you or surreal at times because you're so embedded now as an analyst, as a commentator, and you've interviewed Dan in the cage before, and is it strange for you? You almost see your fight from an outside perspective. Like, how would you see this fight if you're analyzing it?
Yeah, it's funny. I get asked that constantly, and I don't think of it like that. As a matter of fact, I do very little like crazy game planning or worrying about that things. I leave a lot of that, and you've heard this from a lot of fighters. I leave a lot of that to my coaches because they're better at it, and they can take themselves out of it. I can do that when I'm watching other fighters fight and I'm breaking down their footage for commentary. When I'm the guy in there, I can't think like that. For me, it's just I'm better than you everywhere. I'm going to beat your ass everywhere. So I let my coaches run the strategy. I watch his fights. I've watched all Dan's fights. I know how he fights. I know where his timing, and I know where he's good. I know where maybe he's a little weaker. But I definitely don't sit back in it. Even people are like, "Where are you better than him at?" I'm like, I don't know. Ask Duke. I don't know. I'm just going to go in there and try to break every bone I can. You know what I mean? And we'll see what happens. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I assume. But I've done, just as much of everything else as well, and I'm sure he has too. You never know. You get clipped with a punch, or you slip on a piece of blood that you just splatter on the floor, and you end up on your back, and suddenly you're doing jujitsu, and you didn't think you were going to be doing jujitsu. Or your leg starts hurting, so you start shooting single legs. You want to get it to the ground. You don't know, but I do see it mainly playing out as a kickboxing match. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Deontay Wilder was saying like he respects Tyson Fury as a fighter and as a person, but every time they clinched, last time they fought, he called him a dosser, which I thought was pretty funny. Kind of reminded me of that Nick Diaz style. Do you ever have a bit of that in the cage of just like constant trash talking with any opponent?
No, as a matter of fact, I think I'm the opposite sometimes. I've complimented Edson when he took me down in our fight. I said that was a nice takedown. And then I elbowed him in the face and made him bleed. But I at least acknowledged that it was a good move. It surprised even me. I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. Like, you son of a bitch. That was good. Good for you.
Who do you think is going to win, Fury or Wilder on Sunday?
I don't know. I haven't been following too much of it. But Wilder's power is just, I mean, it's ridiculous. But I don't know. Fury's gone out of his way to really focus on nutrition and things like that. He seems to be on top of the game. So I think it'll be a close decision. So I'm going to go with Fury by decision.
Going with the UK guy, interesting. I just wanted to ask you, mate, finally, is Lethwei on your radar at all? Because it's on Fight Pass now. It's something that's getting a lot bigger out here in Asia, and they're trying to grow it out in the States. Burmese bare-knuckle boxing, you can headbutt, the art of 9 limbs. And as a striking enthusiast, I wondered if it's on your radar and what you think of it.
I have seen it, actually. I have seen the headbutting Muay Thai stuff. Nah, that's not something I would ever do. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't watch a couple fights.